The alarm bells rang through the mining station Nexus 7 like a warning of death itself. Workers ran down the metal hallways, their faces filled with terror. Some carried bags with their belongings. Others just ran with empty hands, wanting only to escape. All ships, this is Nexus 7, the station commander's voice cracked over the radio waves. We need immediate evacuation. We found something that should not exist. Captain Dae-Hyeon sat in his command chair aboard the human mining vessel. Iron Will, he was a tall man with kind eyes and hands that showed years of hard work. His ship was not the biggest or fastest in the area, but his crew trusted him completely. Sir, we are getting the distress call from Nexus 7, said Sung-min, his crew chief. Sung-min was shorter than his captain but had arms like steel from years of working with heavy machines. They sound really scared. Dae-Hyeon looked at the star map on his screen. Nexus 7 was only 2 hours away at full speed. Other ships were also moving toward the station. He could see the signals of crystalline ships, reptilian vessels, and even some of the Proud Bird People's fighters. Set course for Nexus 7, Dae-Hyeon ordered. Full speed? Yes, sir, replied So Young from the pilot seat. She was young but flew the ship like she was born for it. Her fingers moved over the controls and the Iron Will jumped forward through space as they traveled. More radio messages came from other ships. The voices were all saying the same thing. Fear, real fear. This is Admiral Kelton of the Crystalline. Hegemony, came a cold voice over the main channel. All ships are ordered to stay back. We will handle this situation. Handle what situation? Sung-min asked quietly. Dr. Yujin entered the command room. She was the ship's scientist who studied alien life forms. Her white coat was always clean and her tools were always ready. She had been listening to all the radio traffic. Captain, she said, I have been hearing pieces of information. The miners found something in the deep tunnels, something alive. What? Kind of alive? Dae-Hyeon asked. Yujin looked worried. The kind that made the Galactic Council create the most dangerous species list. Every person in the command room became quiet. The most dangerous species list had only 3 names on it. All 3 species were considered extinct. All 3 species had once destroyed entire worlds. Which one? So Young whispered. Voidborn, Yujin said. The silence in the room was complete. Everyone knew the stories of the Voidborn. Massive creatures that lived in the cold, empty space between stars. They were as big as ships and had long arms like tentacles. They could tear apart space stations with their bare hands. They could survive in space without any protection, and they ate everything. Metal, rock, even other living things. But they are all dead, Sung-min said. The last one was killed 50 years ago. Apparently. Not all of them, Yujin replied. The Iron Will reached Nexus 7 and found chaos. The mining station looked like a small city floating in space. It had many levels and hundreds of rooms where people lived and worked. But now, ships were leaving the station as fast as they could. Some ships were so full of people that they could barely fly around the station. Military ships from different species were arriving. The crystalline ships looked like flying diamonds and carried powerful energy weapons. The reptilian vessels were dark green and built for war. The bird people's ships were fast and moved like they were dancing through space. This is Captain Dae-Hyeon of the human vessel Iron Will, he said into his radio. Requesting permission to help with evacuation. Negative, came the quick reply from Admiral Kelton. This area is now under military control. Return to your previous location. There are still people on that station, Dae-Hyeon said. Not for long. We are preparing to destroy the entire station. Yujin looked shocked. They want to blow up the whole station. All ships, this is Admiral Kelton. We have confirmed the presence of Voidborn juveniles on mining level 7. The station will be destroyed in 1 standard hour. This is not a request for discussion. Dae-Hyeon felt something cold in his stomach. Juveniles meant young ones, baby Voidborn. Captain, came a weak voice over a private channel. This is Commander Park on Nexus 7. I know you can hear me. I hear you, Commander, Dae-Hyeon replied quickly. The military ships are not letting anyone near level 7. But sir, you need to know something. These creatures, they are not what we expected. What do you mean? They are small, Captain, no bigger than house cats, and they seem scared. Really scared. They are not trying to attack anyone. They just huddle together in the corner of the cave where we found them. Sung-min looked at his captain. Sir, baby animals are not the same as adult animals. That is true for Earth animals, Yujin said slowly. But we do not know if it is true for Voidborn. Daehyun watched the military ships getting into position around the station. Soon they would fire their weapons and everything would be destroyed. The station, the miners still inside, and 3 small creatures who might just be scared babies. So young, he said, can you get us close to the station without the military ships seeing us? Sir, Sung-min said carefully, that would be against direct orders from the Galactic Council. I know, Daehyun said. But I also know that shooting scared babies does not seem right. So Young smiled. Captain, I can get us there. But it will not be easy. Do it, Yujin gathered her equipment. If we are going to do this, I want to see these creatures myself. Why? Sung-min asked. Because, Yujin said, every species in the galaxy has decided these creatures must die based on what their parents did. But what if we are wrong? What if there is something we do not understand? The Iron Will moved quietly through space toward Nexus 7, around them. The most powerful military fleet in the galaxy prepared to destroy everything on the station. And somewhere in the deep tunnels of Level 7, 3 small creatures waited. For their fate to be decided by people they had never met. Daehyun looked at his crew. These people trusted him with their lives. Now he was asking them to risk everything for creatures that might kill them all, but something in his heart told him this was right. Sometimes mercy was more important than fear. Sometimes understanding was more powerful than weapons. 30 minutes until the station is destroyed, So Young reported. Then we better hurry, Daehyun said. The Iron Will moved through the darkness of space like a ghost. So Young had turned off all the ship's lights and most of its power. They drifted toward Nexus 7 using only the smallest engine bursts to change direction. Military ships are not looking our way, So Young whispered. They are all focused on the station. Captain Daehyun watched the large warships through his window. The crystalline vessels glowed with blue energy. Their weapons were charging up, getting ready to turn the mining station into space dust. How much time do we have? He asked. 22 minutes, Sung-min replied, checking his watch. Dr. Yujin had her scientific equipment ready. She wore a special suit that would protect her if the air inside the station was bad. Her hands shook slightly as she prepared her tools. Captain, she said, I want you to know that this could be very dangerous. We know nothing about baby Voidborn. They might be just as deadly as their parents. I understand, Daehyun said. But we have to try. The Iron Will reached the station's docking bay. Most of the other ships had already left. The bay was empty except for a few small cargo vessels that people had forgotten in their rush to escape. Docking complete, So Young announced. Daehyun, Yujin, and Sung-min put on their protective suits and walked through the airlock into the station. The hallways were quiet and dark. Emergency lights blinked red, making everything look like a bad dream. They took the elevator down to level 7. The deeper they went, the more the station shook. The mining machines were still running automatically, digging into the rock even though no one was there to watch them. This way, Yujin said, following the map on her tablet. The miners found them in tunnel section C7. They walked through narrow stone passages that the miners had cut into the asteroid. The walls were rough and cold. Their footsteps echoed in the empty tunnels. There, Sung-min pointed ahead. In front of them was a large cave that the miners had opened up while looking for rare metals. Work lights hung from the ceiling, but most of them were broken. In the far corner of the cave, something moved. Yujin turned on her powerful flashlight. The beam of light showed 3 small creatures huddled together. They were about the size of house cats, just as Commander Park had said. But they looked nothing like the giant monsters from the stories. Their bodies were almost see-through, like they were made of clear glass. Inside their bodies, soft lights moved in patterns of blue and green. They had large eyes that reflected the flashlight beam. When the light hit them, they moved closer together and made soft sounds. "They are scared," Eugen whispered. The creatures had small tentacles instead of arms and legs, but these tentacles looked delicate, not dangerous. They used them to hold on to each other. "They are babies," Sung-min said in amazement. "Real babies." Eugen slowly moved closer to the creatures. She held up her hands to show she had no weapons. The baby Voidborn watched her but did not try to run away. "Incredible," she said. "Look at their eyes. There's intelligence there, real thinking." One of the creatures made a sound like singing. The lights inside its body changed from blue to yellow. The other two creatures answered with their own songs and light patterns. "They are talking to each other," Eugen realized. "Talking about what?" Dae-hai asked. "I think they are trying to decide if we are dangerous." Eugen took out a small device that could record sounds and light patterns. She began studying the way the creatures communicated with each other. "Captain," Sung-min said, looking at his watch, "we have 15 minutes. At that moment, Eugen's radio crackled to life. It was a signal from space, being broadcast to all ships in the area. "This is the Galactic Council emergency session," came an official voice. "All species representatives, report to the council ship immediately." Dae-hyun looked at the baby creatures, then at his crew. "Eugen, can you learn anything useful in the next few minutes?" "I am trying, Captain, but this will take time. We do not have time." Sung-min had an idea. "Captain, what if we take them?" "With us? Take them where? To our ship? We can study them safely while the council decides what to do." Eugen looked excited. That could work. But we would need to create a safe environment for them. The creatures seemed to understand that the humans were discussing them. They watched carefully and their internal lights changed colors faster. 12 minutes, Sung-min announced. Dae-hyun made his decision. "We take them." "Eugen, can you build them a safe place on our ship?" "Yes, but it will be basic." "Basic is better than dead." Eugen approached the creatures slowly. She spoke to them in a soft voice, even though she knew they could not understand her words. "Hello, little ones, we want to help you." To everyone's surprise, one of the creatures moved toward her. It stretched out a small tentacle and gently touched her gloved hand. The touch was warm and gentle. "It trusts you," Sung-min said. Eugen carefully picked up the creature. It was lighter than she expected and felt warm through her gloves. The creature's lights changed to a soft green color. The other two creatures followed without being picked up. They seemed to understand that the humans were trying to help them. "They are smart," Dae-hyun said. "Very smart." The group moved quickly through the tunnels back toward their ship. Behind them, the mining station shook as the military ships moved into final attack position. 8 minutes, Sung-min called out. They reached the iron will and brought the creatures aboard. Eugen quickly set up a temporary habitat in the ship's science lab. She used soft blankets and warm lights to make the space comfortable. The creatures explored their new environment with curiosity. They touched everything gently with their tentacles and communicated with each other using their light patterns. "Docking clamps released," So-young announced from the pilot's seat. "We are moving away from the station." Through the window, they could see the military ships taking their final positions. The crystalline vessels glowed brighter as their weapons reached full power. 5 minutes, came Admiral Kelton's voice over the radio. "All ships maintain safe distance." Dae-hyun sat down next to the creature's habitat. One of them looked at him with its large eyes and made a soft singing sound. The lights in its body pulsed gently. "You are safe now," he told it. "I promise." But even as he said the words, Dae-hyun knew their real problems were just beginning. The Galactic Council would not be happy that humans had saved the creatures. And somewhere in space, a council meeting was about to begin that would decide the fate of 3 small beings who had never hurt anyone. 2 minutes, Sung-min said quietly. In the distance, the military ships prepared to destroy everything the creatures had ever known. But aboard the Iron Will, 3 baby Voidborn began to learn that not all beings in the galaxy wanted them dead. Some, like humans, believed in giving second chances. The Galactic Council ship was enormous. It looked like a floating city in space with towers and bridges connecting different sections. Ships from every species in the galaxy docked at its many ports. Each species had their own area painted in. Their traditional colors, Ambassador Tae-young walked through the long hallways toward the main council chamber. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen many difficult negotiations. His black diplomatic uniform carried the symbol of Earth and Humanity. Behind him walked Admiral Haewon, the military representative for humanity. She was younger than Tae-young but carried herself like a soldier. Her uniform had many medals showing her service in various conflicts across the galaxy. "The other species are very angry," Haewon said quietly as they walked. "They know we took." "The creatures, let them be angry," Tae-young replied. "We did what we thought was right." They entered the council chamber, a huge circular room with seats arranged in layers like an ancient theater. Each species had their own section. The crystalline beings sat in the highest seats, their diamond-like bodies reflecting the room's lights. Below them, the reptilian delegates wore their ceremonial armor. The bird people's representatives perched on special stands designed for their clawed feet. In the center of the room stood a holographic display showing the destroyed remains of Nexus 7. The military ships had done their job completely. Nothing was left but floating pieces of metal and rock. "The emergency session will now begin," announced Chancellor Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony. His voice was cold and sharp like breaking glass. "We are here to discuss the human violation of direct military orders." Tae-young stood up in the human section. "Chancellor, we are here to discuss saving the lives of 3 innocent beings." "Innocent?" came a harsh voice from the reptilian section. General Thactor stood up, his scales dark with anger. "Your species calls baby Voidborn innocent? Have you forgotten the Battle of 7 Suns?" Murmurs of agreement came from around the chamber. Every species remembered the stories of Voidborn attacks. Entire star systems had been destroyed. Billions of lives had been lost. "We have not forgotten," Tae-young said calmly. "But we have also not forgotten that these are children. They have done nothing wrong yet," Chancellor Veltar said. "They have done nothing wrong yet. But what happens when they grow up? What happens when they become the monsters their parents were?" Meanwhile, aboard the Iron Will, Dr. Yujin was making remarkable discoveries. She had been working with the 3 baby Voidborn for 6 hours straight. Her translation device was beginning to understand their light patterns and sounds. "Captain," she called to Dae-hyun, "you need to see this." Dae-hyun came to the science lab where Yujin had set up her equipment. The 3 creatures were sitting together in their habitat. They had been eating the special food Yujin had prepared for them, and they looked much healthier than when they first found them. "What did you discover?" Dae-hyun asked. "They can understand some of our words," Yujin said excitedly. "Watch this." She turned to the creatures and said slowly, "Hello?" One of the creatures looked at her and its lights changed to a warm yellow pattern. It made a sound that was clearly trying to copy her greeting. "That is amazing," Dae-hyun said. "But that is not the important part," Yujin continued. "Captain, they have been trying to tell me something about their parent." She showed Dae-hyun the recordings she had made of the creature's communications. The patterns were complex, but she was beginning to understand them. "They keep showing me the same images," Yujin said. "Their parent was not attacking ships for food or fun. It was trying to protect something." "Protect what?" Before Yujin could answer, her translation device beeped. One of the creatures was trying to communicate something new. The device worked hard to turn the light patterns and sounds into words humans could understand. "Big Dark comin'," the device said in a mechanical voice. "Parent fight Big Dark?" "Parent gone. Big Dark still coming." Dae-hyun looked at Yujin. "Big Dark?" Yujin asked the creature more questions. Slowly, through broken words and light patterns, a story began to emerge. The creature's parent had not been attacking random ships. It had been trying to gather resources and technology to build some kind of barrier. Barrier against what? Eugen asked the creatures. The answer came as a flood of images that the creatures projected using their bioluminescent abilities. They showed space between galaxies, cold and empty. But something was moving through that emptiness. Something huge and dark that consumed everything in its path. Parent see far danger, the translation device said. Parent try warn, but no one listen. Parent try stop alone. Daehyun felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying their parent was trying to protect the galaxy? The creature's lights pulsed frantically as they tried to make the humans understand. Through the translation device, more broken words came through. Big Dark eat everything. Stars, planets, life. Parent species fight Big Dark for long time. Parent last one. Parent fail. Back in the council chamber, the debate was getting heated. Species after species stood up to condemn humanity's actions. The bird people's speaker Kryash spread her wings in anger as she spoke. Humans always think they know better than everyone else, she squawked. They think their soft hearts make them wise. But softness will not save us when these creatures grow up and destroy our worlds. Tae-young listened to each speech patiently. When it was his turn to speak, he stood slowly and looked around the chamber. My fellow beings, he began, we make our decisions based on fear. We have decided these creatures must die because of what their parents did. But what if we are wrong about what their parents did? The facts are clear, Chancellor Veltar interrupted. Voidborn destroyed entire civilizations. The facts we know are clear, Tae-young corrected. But what if there are facts we do not know? At that moment, Admiral Haewon received an urgent message on her communication device. It was from Captain Daehyun on the Iron Will. Admiral, the message said, we have learned something important about the creatures. They say their parent was not an attacker but a protector. There is something else coming that is much worse than Voidborn. Haewon showed the message to Tae-young. He read it quickly and felt his heart race. Chancellor, Tae-young said loudly, interrupting the current speaker, I request permission to present new evidence to this council. What evidence? Veltar asked suspiciously. Evidence that everything we thought we knew about the Voidborn might be wrong. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some species demanded that Tae-young sit down. Others wanted to hear what he had to say. In the confusion, no one noticed the small readings beginning to appear on the long-range sensors. Something was indeed moving through the empty space between galaxies, something that made the Voidborn look small and harmless by comparison. And it was heading toward their galaxy faster than anyone could imagine. The three baby Voidborn on the Iron Will huddled together, their lights pulsing with what could only be described as worry. They could sense what was coming even if the galaxies. Most advanced sensors could barely detect it. Time was running out faster than anyone realized. 3 weeks had passed since the Iron Will rescued the baby Voidborn from Nexus 7. The ship had become their new home, and the crew had become their new family. Dr. Eugen watched as the creatures played in their expanded habitat. Engineer So-young had built them a much larger space with soft walls and gentle lights that changed colors. The creatures loved to chase the moving lights and make music with their own bioluminescent patterns. They are growing so fast, Eugen said to Captain Daehyun, not just in size but in understanding. The creatures had learned many human words. They could say hello, food, friend, and safe. But more importantly, they had learned to understand emotions. When crew members were sad, the creatures would come close and glow with warm, comforting colors. What are their names? Asked Jinwoo, the youngest crew member. He had spent hours teaching the creatures about human culture and music. Eugen smiled. They chose their own names yesterday. This one wants to be called Hanyul. She pointed to the largest creature whose lights were usually blue and silver. This one is Bitna. The second creature glowed with golden lights. And the smallest one is Dale. The third creature's lights were soft green and purple. Those are beautiful names, Jinwoo said. Hanyul looked up at the sound of his name and made a happy chirping sound. He had become very close to Captain Daehyun and often sat near him during mealtimes. Bitna loved to help So Young with small repair jobs around the ship. Her tentacles were perfect for reaching into tight spaces. Dale spent most of his time with Yujin, learning about science and asking endless questions through the translation device. "Friend Daehyun sad today," Dale said through the device. Looking at the captain with concern, Daehyun was indeed sad. Reports were coming in from the outer edge of the galaxy that worried him greatly. Several remote colonies had simply disappeared. No distress calls, no wreckage, nothing, they were just gone. "I am worried about the reports," Daehyun admitted to the creature. "Big Dark coming closer," Haniel said, his lights pulsing with anxiety. "We feel it in the space between space." Yujin had learned that the creatures could sense things across vast distances, something no other known species could do. They felt disturbances in what they called space between space, which seemed to be some kind of quantum field that connected all matter in the universe. "How far away is it?" Yujin asked. The three creatures looked at each other and their lights flickered in complex patterns as they discussed among themselves. Finally, Bitna spoke through the translator. "Big Dark will reach first star systems in 2 moon cycles, maybe less." That was only 2 months. Yujin felt her heart sink. Whatever was coming would arrive much sooner than anyone expected. "We need to tell the Galactic Council," Daehyun said, but the Council was not listening to humanity anymore. After Taeyang had tried to present evidence about the creatures, the other species had voted to suspend human participation in Council decisions. They said humans were too emotionally compromised to think clearly. Admiral Haewon had been trying to get the Council's attention for weeks, but they refused to meet with her. The other species were too angry about humanity protecting the baby Voidborn. "Captain," So Young called from the pilot station, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth Command." The message was from Admiral Chun, the head of Earth Space Fleet. His face appeared on the main screen and he looked very serious. "Captain Daehyun, you and your crew are ordered to return to Earth immediately. The Galactic Council has demanded that we turn over the creatures for immediate execution. We can no longer protect you." Daehyun looked at Haniel Bitna, and they had been listening to the message and their lights had turned dark with fear. "Captain Chun," Daehyun replied, "we cannot do that. These creatures are not dangerous. They are trying to help us. That is not for us to decide anymore. The Council has made their choice. Then we will not return to Earth." The crew looked at their captain with surprise. Sung-min stepped forward. "Sir, that would make us criminals. We would never be able to go home." Daehyun looked at each member of his crew. These people had families and friends on Earth. He could not ask them to give up everything. "Anyone who wants to leave can take the shuttle and return to Earth," he said. "I will not think less of any of you." But no one moved toward the exit. So Young was the first to speak. "Captain, these little ones are family now." "You do not abandon family." "We stay together?" Jinwoo added. Datsu-min nodded. "Where you go, we go." Yujin was wiping tears from her eyes. "Besides, someone needs to study the approaching threat. The Council will not listen, but maybe we can find a way to stop it." The creatures had been watching this exchange with their large, intelligent eyes. Suddenly, Dale spoke up. "Humans choose danger for us. We choose danger for humans. We family now." That night, while most of the crew slept, Captain Daehyun sat in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Haniel joined him, floating gently in the low-gravity section of the ship. "You sad again, friend Daehyun?" Haniel said. "I am worried. I made the wrong choice. My crew gave up everything to protect you." Haniel's lights pulsed thoughtfully. "Parent made same choice long ago. Choose protect galaxy even when galaxy not understand. Parent die alone because no one help." "I do not want to die alone," Daehyun said quietly. "You not alone, we here, crew here, love here." Haniel's tentacles gently touched Daehyun's hand. "Love stronger than fear. Parent know that. You know that too." Meanwhile, at the edge of the galaxy, the long-range sensors on a research station picked up something impossible. A massive cloud of darkness was moving through space, consuming Everything in its path. Stars were simply winking out of existence. Dr. Quinn, the station's chief scientist, stared at the readings with disbelief. Whatever was approaching was not just destroying matter. It was unmaking it at the quantum level, as if reality itself was being erased. He immediately sent emergency reports to every government and military command in the galaxy. But most of the messages were ignored. The galaxy's leaders were too busy arguing about three small creatures to pay attention to readings. That seemed impossible. Only one person took the report seriously. Admiral Haywan received Dr. Kwan's data and compared it with the information from the baby Voidborn. Everything matched perfectly. She tried once more to contact the Galactic Council, but they refused to see her. In desperation, she sent an encrypted message to Captain Day-Hyun. Captain, you were right. Something is coming, and it is worse than anything we have ever faced. The creatures might be our only hope of survival. Find a way to help them grow strong enough to fight what is coming. Humanity is counting on you. Aboard the Iron Will, the three baby Voidborn huddled together as they felt the approaching darkness. Getting stronger, they knew they were running out of time. Soon they would have to make a choice that would change them forever. But for now, they were safe with their human family. And for the first time in their species' long history, they were not facing the darkness alone. The first star system died on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Kwan watched his instruments in horror as the Helios system simply vanished from all sensors. 5 planets, 2 space stations, and 3 million colonists just stopped existing. One moment. They were there. The next moment, there was only empty space. This is impossible, he whispered to himself, but his instruments did not lie. The Devourer swarm had reached the galaxy and begun its feast. These entities existed partially outside normal space and time, making them nearly impossible to detect. Until they started consuming matter, emergency broadcasts flooded every communication channel in the galaxy. Panic spread from world to world as people realized that something beyond their understanding was destroying everything in its path. On the council ship, Chancellor Veltar called another emergency session. This time, even the proudest species were willing to listen to anyone who might have answers. The Outer Rim colonies are reporting complete matter dissolution, Admiral Haywan announced to the packed chamber. Whatever these entities are, they are not just destroying things. They are making them cease to exist entirely. Our most advanced weapons have no effect, reported General Factor. We sent 3 battle fleets to engage the entities. All ships were consumed without even slowing them down. Ambassador Taeyong stood up slowly. Fellow delegates, we need to consider that we may have been wrong about the Voidborn. This is not the time for your human sentimentality, Chancellor Veltar snapped. This is exactly the time, Taeyong replied firmly. The creatures we wanted to kill may be the only ones who can save us. Aboard the Iron Will, Haniel, Bitna, and Dale were no longer the small, playful creatures they had been weeks ago. They had grown larger, and their lights now pulsed with urgent energy. They could feel the Devourers getting closer with each passing hour. The Big Dark is in our galaxy now, Haniel told Captain Day-Hyun through the translator. We can feel it, eating the light of stars. Can you stop it? Yujin asked. The 3 creatures looked at each other with what could only be described as sadness. We can try, Bitna said. But we must change, become like parent, become guardian form. What does that mean? Day-Hyun asked. Dale explained slowly. Guardian form is what parent species become to fight Big Dark. We grow very large. We become strong enough to touch space between space, but what? But we lose small form thoughts. Lose small form feelings, become only guardians, not friends. Yujin felt her heart break. You would lose your memories of us? Maybe yes. Maybe no? Never happened before that guardian had family love to hold on to. Sung-min had been listening quietly. Is there no other way? Other ways were tried, Haniel said. Many parent species died trying other ways. Only guardian form strong enough to fight devourers. So Young came running into the room with urgent news. Captain, we are receiving distress calls from the Kepler colony. The Devourers have reached the inner systems. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the desperate voices of people who knew they were about to die. Families saying goodbye to each other. Children crying for help that would never come. How long do we have? Daehyun asked the creatures. 3 days, maybe 4, Dale replied. Then Devourers reach core worlds? Billions die? Dr. Yujin had been working frantically in her laboratory, trying to find alternatives. She had studied every piece of data about the void-born species and the approaching threat. Captain, she called out excitedly, I think I found something. Everyone gathered around her workstation where she had been analyzing the creature's biology and neural patterns. The transformation to guardian form is usually triggered by isolation and survival instinct, she explained. But what if we could trigger it differently? What if love and connection could be part of the transformation instead of something that gets lost? Is that possible? Jinwoo asked. I do not know. It has never been tried. But these three have formed emotional bonds stronger than any their species has ever experienced. Maybe that changes things. Hanyul moved closer to Yujin. You think we can stay family even in guardian form? I think love might be stronger than instinct, Yujin said. But it would be very dangerous to try. More dangerous than doing nothing? So Young asked. Outside the ship, space itself was beginning to warp. The Devourers were approaching the solar system where Earth hung in space, unaware that its children were about to make the most important decision in galactic history. We will try, Bitna said suddenly. We will try to become guardians but keep family love. But what if it does not work? Su-min asked, what if you transform and forget us completely? Then you run far away, Dale said simply. Promise us. If we become monsters, you run and save yourselves. Daehyun knelt down next to the three creatures. We will not run. If you fight, we fight with you. How can humans fight Devourers? Hanyul asked. We cannot fight the Devourers directly, Daehyun admitted, but we can fight to keep you connected to who you are. We can be your anchor to love and family. Yujin began setting up her equipment. If we are going to try this, we need to do it now. I can monitor your neural patterns during the transformation and help guide the process. The three creatures moved to the center of the room and joined their tentacles together. Their lights began to pulse in perfect harmony. Before we change, Bitna said, we want to say something. What is it? Yujin asked. Thank you for showing us that some beings choose love over fear. Thank you for being our family. You will always be our family, Daehyun said firmly. No matter what happens. The creatures closed their large eyes and began the transformation. Their bodies started to glow brighter and brighter as ancient genetic programming activated. They were preparing to become something that had not existed in the galaxy for over a century. Outside the ship, the darkness between stars grew deeper as the Devourers approached. Soon, the three young beings would either save the galaxy or lose themselves trying, but for the first time in their species' history, they would not transform alone. They would carry the love of their human family with them into the battle ahead. Yujin watched her instruments carefully as the creatures began to change. Neural patterns are fluctuating but holding steady, she reported. The emotional connections are still strong. Good, Daehyun said. Stay with them. Keep talking to them. Do not let them forget who they are. The fate of billions now rested in the hands of three creatures who had learned that mercy could be stronger than fear, and that love could survive even the most terrifying transformations. The real test was about to begin. The transformation was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Hanyul, Bitna, and Dale grew larger and larger until they could no longer fit inside the ship. Their bodies became translucent and filled with swirling galaxies of light. They moved out into space through the ship's cargo bay, growing to the size of buildings. Then mountains, then small moons, but their eyes remained the same. Large, intelligent, and filled with love for their human family. Can you hear us? Dr. Yujin asked through the communication system. We hear you, friend Yujin. came Haniel's voice, now deep and echoing like distant thunder. "We are still us, but also more than us." Captain Daehyun watched in amazement. As the three guardians took their positions around the iron will, they had become massive beings of living energy, but they moved with the same gentle care they had shown as babies. "The Devourers are coming," Bitna announced, her voice like singing wind. "We can see them in the space between space." In the distance, reality itself began to bend and twist. The Devourer swarm emerged from the darkness between dimensions, entities so alien that they hurt to look at directly. They were not made of matter but of unmaking itself, darkness that consumed light and existence wherever it touched. "There are so many of them," So Young whispered. Hundreds of the entities poured into normal space, each one the size of a city. They moved toward the populated star systems like a wave of absolute destruction. "Guardian protocols activated," Dale said, his voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to vibrate through space itself. "Beginning defensive sequence." The three Guardians spread out across the solar system. Their bodies began to emit waves of energy that could interact with the space between space where the Devourers partially existed. "We remember our purpose now," Haniel said. Our species was born to fight this enemy. But we also remember our choice. We choose to fight with love, not just instinct." The first clash between Guardians and Devourers sent shockwaves through multiple dimensions. The Iron Will was protected by the Guardians' energy field, but even from a safe distance, the crew could feel the immense forces at work. Unlike their parent, who had fought alone and with only survival instinct, the three Guardians coordinated their attacks with strategy and compassion. They communicated constantly with each other and with their human family. "Devourer cluster approaching Earth sector," Yujin reported from her instruments. "Population 12 billion. "We see them," Bitna replied. "Protecting Earth is priority. No harm comes to human family home." The Guardian moved faster than light itself, arriving at Earth just as the Devourer swarm began consuming the outer atmosphere. Her massive form wrapped around the planet like a protective shield while she fought entities that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Meanwhile, Haniel and Dale worked together to drive the main swarm away from populated systems. Their attacks were precise and careful, designed to destroy the Devourers without damaging nearby planets or space stations. "This is different from the old stories," Sumin observed. "The ancient Guardians just destroyed everything in their path, good and bad together. Love makes us precise," Dale explained between attacks. "We fight to protect, not just to destroy." The battle raged for hours across multiple star systems. The Guardians were winning, but the cost was enormous. Each attack drained their energy, and there seemed to be endless numbers of Devourers pouring through dimensional rifts. "We are getting tired," Haniel admitted. "Devourer reinforcements still coming. We may not be strong enough." That was when something unexpected happened. The Galactic Council fleet arrived at the battle zone, led by Admiral Haewon and Ambassador Taeyong. "All ships, this is Admiral Haewon," came the voice over the communication channels. "We are here to support the Guardians. Form protective formations around populated worlds." "But how can we help?" asked General Factor. "Our weapons cannot touch the Devourers." Yujin had an idea. "Captain, the Guardians are powered by emotional energy as much as physical energy. What if the entire galaxy supported them the way we do?" "How do we do that?" Daehyun asked. "We broadcast our conversation with them. Let everyone in the galaxy hear that these are not monsters but protectors who chose to save us all." So Young quickly set up a galaxy-wide broadcast. Soon, the voices of the three Guardians were being heard on every world and space station still surviving. "We are Haniel, Bitna, and Dale," the Guardians said together. "We fight for all life, we fight for family, we fight for love." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the galaxy, billions of beings began sending messages of support and gratitude. Children drew pictures, adults wrote poems. Entire worlds sang songs of encouragement. "We can feel it," Bitna said, her voice growing stronger. "The love of billions. It gives us power we never knew we could have." Powered by the emotional support of an entire galaxy, the three Guardians fought with renewed strength. They began closing the dimensional rifts that allowed the Devourers to enter normal space. One by one, the entities were destroyed or driven back into the darkness between galaxies. Chancellor Veltar, watching from the Council ship, spoke over the communication channel. Guardians, the crystalline hegemony owes you an apology. We were wrong to fear you. Fear was natural, Haniel replied gently. But mercy was choice. Thank you for choosing mercy. The final battle took place at the edge of the galaxy, where the largest dimensional rift was slowly closing. The three Guardians combined their power to seal the gateway permanently, ensuring that the Devourers could never return. It is finished, Dale announced. The threat is ended. As the emergency passed, the Guardians began to shrink back toward their normal size. But they did not return to their baby forms. Instead, they settled into a middle size, larger than they had been, but still small enough to interact with their human family. We are changed forever, Bitna explained as they returned to the Iron Will. We can never be small children again. But we can choose to be conscious Guardians instead of mindless ones. Captain Dehayan welcomed them back aboard with tears in his eyes. You saved everyone, the entire galaxy. We all saved everyone, Haniel corrected. Humans showed mercy when others showed fear. Galaxy showed love when it could have shown hate. Victory belongs to all who chose compassion. 6 months. Later, the Galactic Council held a ceremony to honor the Guardians and their human family. Captain Dehayan and his crew received the highest civilian honors from every species in the galaxy. Dr. Eugene established the Institute for Compassionate Xenobiology, dedicated to understanding unknown species through empathy rather than fear. So Young became the first human to be offered a position as chief engineer on a multi-species council ship. Jinwoo wrote songs about the Guardians that were sung on 1,000 worlds, but the greatest honor went to the three Guardians themselves. They became the official protectors of the galaxy, but they chose to remain based on Earth, close to the humans who had shown them that mercy could change the universe. What will you do now? Tae-young asked them during the ceremony. We will. Watch, Dale said. We will protect. And we will remember that love is stronger than fear. And when new unknown species are discovered? Hae-won asked. We will teach the galaxy to ask questions before shooting, Bitna replied. We will show them that mercy creates miracles. Years passed peacefully. The three Guardians became beloved figures throughout the galaxy, not as feared monsters, but as gentle protectors who chose compassion over conquest, and on quiet nights aboard the Iron Will, they would still gather with their human family to share stories and watch the stars. They had learned that the greatest strength in the universe was not the power to destroy, but the courage to save those who others feared. The galaxy was safe, not because monsters had been destroyed, but because mercy had created Guardians who would protect all life with love instead of ruling it with fear. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, like choosing to save 3 frightened babies, could change the fate of billions. The humans had saved the Guardians, but in the end they had all saved each other. That was the true power of mercy, and it was enough to light up the stars themselves.